It's not clear water, and we have a lot of very good sand, but it's all muddy with the mud. So that aspect of the sea and sun type tourism is not the product there. What there is more kind of ecotourism product. Now that in itself is quite underdeveloped. For a long period of time during the height of our socialist phase, which ran right through into the 80s and a bit beyond, the tourism anyhow was frowned upon. It was, you must be aware of the whole left thinking, unreformed left thinking about tourism.
For some development was happening on that.
Well, so it has taken a while for people to really start to understand how valuable tourism can be, how it's a good way of promoting your country, how it brings foreign exchange in, how it creates a lot of jobs, all of that. And so there is now a much more concerted effort to build a good tourism product in Guyana, but it is, like I said, it won't be, so we can't really get that much help from the Barbados of the world. But a country like Suriname, right next to us, by virtue of their strong links with Holland, have developed such a product where a lot of Europeans come to go to Suriname to be able to go into the interior to see these natural waterfalls and rainfalls, to bird watching. Bird watching is a big thing. Many opportunities for bird watchers in Guyana. Going on the rivers and seeing fishing, all that kind of thing. Just being in those forests. There's a big forest reserve set aside in Guyana called Iwo, which is meant to be a big. It's a million acres that the government gifted to be jointly run by Guyana and the Commonwealth to look at how you can sustainably develop forestry, and they have a little tourism area there at the center. And you go there and spend a day or two, and it's like all your cares just fall away. I hear they put the internet in there now, which is, I suppose they wanted to, but the thing about it is that you would go there and you don't have to worry about if I can get a 200 rupee note out of an ATM. It's all of these things just drop away from you, and you really have a sense of refreshment. And that is what they're looking to do. But having seen that kind of natural ecotourism in countries like Namibia and South Africa and I've been to Kenya, it is done at such a high level. In fact, it is not. It's really not even like a mass market product. It's almost like a luxury product, and so you have very comfortable accommodation in the midst, and not really damaging in a natural environment, and that really is turned out to be a very popular strand of tourism. And I suspect in time that Guyana may be looking to go for that product because it is very, very unspoilt. And but at the same time, it's not the kind of place that you can be without some of the creature comforts. The mosquitoes, the ants, the animals, and so on. So you need to have a comfortable environment. And I think that our tourism product may tend to go in that area. And there's also
this is one of the important subjects. The tourism for any country.
Yeah. It's a very good way to open things up.
But because of the demographic condition.
But also I think we may be looking to do joint things where maybe people come to the island and get a bit of eco and then go into the island so a little bit of sea and sand before leaving, So joint destinations may also be something that we look at.
In the recent year, more women than men are attending university in Guyana. What's your say on this change?
It's very true, and it's a change, but it's been a change that's been coming. Generally, a lot of women and girls perform better academically than boys. When you come to the very, very top, the boys' competitive instinct will always put them there.
The ratio has increased.
Yes, it's certainly increased, but also one thing which is not particularly well known about Guyana is, because our constitution was rewritten in 1980, which is relatively late, by which time issues of gender equality and so on were very strong. And also because at that time, a lot of the senior levels of the judiciary had a very strong female influence. Our constitution is actually very strong on women's issues, I believe, certainly in terms of the way it's drafted. And that in practice has, you can see, for example, in our own ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Guyana, the actual management is very dominated by women. Most of the departments have female heads. And
so is it the thought process has gone further? If the women are more getting the education?
Well, women, the levels of female education have always been high in Guyana. Levels of education generally have been high. But what I think is that like I said, because constitutionally and so on, there are a lot of protections in there for women anyhow. I think that together with a lot of emigration, some of which has been male-led. So often, if a family is looking to emigrate, what may happen is that the husband or the breadwinner may go first, the man, and then the rest of the family may follow over a long period of time.
Okay.
And so there's something of so there's not always a strong slate of male candidates for positions, and the women are certainly very capable of doing it. And by now, women have been running a number of things in Guyana for long enough for people to see that the whole country is not gone up in flames. It's working perfectly fine. There's one. It's a very bad joke. One of our in fact, he was a pilot. He was talking about. He made a joke about women leadership. He said, they say that women, in terms of women driving, they said, woman driver, no survivor. Which that whole attitude is just gone. He hardly ever tells that joke anymore because the women have been driving and we are surviving. So I think that the practice and the experience of women in positions of power in Guyana has just proved to be effective, and it is true. If you go to Guyana, you will see there's a fair amount of female leadership. Political leadership at the top is still male dominated, but we have had Chet Jagan, who was one of the very early leaders of local politics in Guyana, and became a president himself in that same election in 1992 that we spoke of. His wife, Janet Jagan, was a president of Guyana at one stage and so on. So yes, there's a lot of female involvement in management in Guyana.
So His Excellency, if you were to define bureaucracy in India, how would you put forward?
I would say it is. I wouldn't say there's too much of it, but I think it is implemented in a way that is makes it too difficult to navigate properly. That's the first thing. I think the bureaucracy is too officious. I think in many cases, the cases I've come across. I mean, an example is like duty-free allowances for diplomats. I mean, you have to fill in a form in 11. I don't even know what the template is. It's not triplicate or quadruplicate. It's 11 copies of it.
You mean to say the process is more tedious?
The process is more tedious, and I suspect that may be self-defeating in a way, in that it makes it easier for people, just from a point of view of not wasting time, to justify going around it in some way. And so I think that the level of officiousness in some areas of Indian bureaucracy, and I've only been here a year and a half, so I'm not at all an authority on this matter, but I do suspect that has elements of, can be slightly self-defeating, in that it then causes people to be able to justify getting around the bureaucracy, and therefore not allowing the order that a properly functioning bureaucracy would bring to take hold. And I know the government is working on this in various ways and so on, but I suspect that there are times when you get an idea there's a casual disregard for rules and regulations, and I won't be surprised if in making the bureaucracy less intrusive and more efficient might be part of what leads to dealing with that problem of a casual disregard of rules and regulations that one often finds, especially in crowded cities here.
But a lot of changes have been made in Narendra Modi, or Honorable Prime Minister.
Yes.
More India has come on the digital platform.
Yeah.
More online, you can go ahead and do your transactions, which were not there previously.
Yeah.
So my next question is, our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, has been very aggressive in his approach at building fruitful ties with foreign neighbors or foreign countries. What do you say on this?
Well, I think it has been more than just a breath of fresh air. I think India is such a big and in some ways self-contained country that one often got the impression, over time, that it was relatively inward-looking. But there's no doubt that under PM Modi, and I know that the process of looking outward started before with some of the financial reforms and so on in the previous administration. But he, like you said, has certainly accelerated that process. Whereas we find India now, and this was another thing that came that I think I was keen to get Guyanese politicians to understand how much more outward looking India is now. And even as some of our traditional powers like the United States and Europe and Britain with Brexit and so on seem to be themselves turning inwards, it is fortunate, I think, that India is one of the regional and maybe in time global powers that is looking outwards, because I think that engagement with the world is very welcome. I mean, I'm old enough to have heard when people first started talking within the context of an online movement of South-South cooperation and South-South trade, and I believe that now I'm seeing it in reality much more than I would have thought possible. It was a nice idea that it seemed to go nowhere, but now here I think we can see much more South-South cooperation. The extent to which India is looking to build its ties with Latin America and the Caribbean, our part of the world, is encouraging, and the extent to which Mr. Modi has changed international perceptions of India, I think is very much to be welcomed, very much to be welcomed.
So how have been your journey so far here in India after joining you? What is it that you're now looking forward in terms of your country relations with India?
Well, like I said, I think that during this year and towards the end of last year, but particularly during the early part of this year, like I said, a much more modern and appropriate basis for the things that India and Guyana do, and the basis for our bilateral relations is being spoken about. And so what I look forward to doing is to getting that understanding of the new basis of our bilateral relations widely understood, not only in India here, but also in Guyana. The top leadership is certainly starting to do that, but it takes some time for that to be understood throughout other parts of our own bureaucracy. I think that's one thing that's very important. And then, but even more important than that is another thing that Mr. Modi has been very keen about. I don't know much Hindi at all, but I know there's a word he uses that talks about getting things done. There's a phrase he has, something, I can't remember. Good ideas, but also good implementation, I think. You may remember the phrase better than I. But anyhow, but he does talk about, it's great to have all these initiatives and ideas, but then you have to get them done.
Yes.
And I expect that a lot of the focus